The American economy is facing some of its biggest challenges in years as the price of just about everything has gone up and your dollar buys a whole lot less. Congressman David Kustoff of Memphis is a member of Congress. He's on the House Financial Services Committee. He says President Joe Biden owns this mess, and his proposed $3.5 trillion spending spree is only going to make matters worse, and it will also hurt hardworking Americans. Would you please welcome to the show Congressman for the great state of Tennessee, David Kustoff. We are seeing some crazy stuff right now with the economy, and the White House has sort of made light of it, with the chief of staff saying that it's really only hurting the high end of the American public. I have a hard time believing that's true.
You know, Governor, you're exactly right, and that shows truly how out of touch some of those people are in Washington, the Democratic hierarchy. And that really concerns me, because when I talk to my constituents, I've got all types of constituents, they're all concerned about the high price that they're paying for everything, whether it's gasoline, whether it's food, you name it, and it keeps going up. And a big part of the problem is the spending in Washington. I think we all realize that. You just talked about $3.5 trillion. Well, back in March, Joe Biden pushed through, strictly on a party line basis, $1.9 trillion in spending. The government can't keep printing money, but when it does, it continues to add to these inflationary pressures. And we're going to continue to pay more and more for these goods and services.
What's in that $3.5 trillion bill that has nothing to do with infrastructure? I mean, some people have started pointing out, as they've read it, which I'm convinced a lot of people haven't, but there's some weird stuff in there.
There is, Governor. And you think about, first of all, when we talk about these numbers, you were a governor of Arkansas, big numbers. It's hard to wrap, even though I've been around it, $3.5 trillion. It's just an incredible amount of money. But what you're talking about, what we're talking about, is new cradle-to-grave benefits that, if these government benefits are started, we'll never get rid of them. We'll never get rid of them.
And what are some of those benefits? What are some of the things that baked into this thing?
So they talk about free childcare, free daycare that's paid for, the continuation of these child tax payments that started earlier this year that they want to make permanent, which also gives, in my opinion, a disincentive for people to want to go to work. You know, I talk to my business owners in my district. They say, business is good, but we can't get people to show up for work. And part of the reason are these new government benefits that started over the last few months. Free community college. So it spans the board, but when you add all that up, Medicare benefits for dental services, it's a tremendous amount of money. And again, if we start paying those benefits, if it passes, it'll be here forever.
Somebody has made the observation, we got all these cargo ships parked offshore on the West Coast, that if we were manufacturing stuff in America, we wouldn't need the cargo ships. It would already be in the country. How do we get back to making things in America rather than depending upon the Chinese to make our stuff?
I think that President Trump had it exactly right. And that was, his goal was to bring manufacturing back to the United States. So he pushed through the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017 to encourage businesses to bring business to the United States, manufacturing to the United States. And we started to see that because he lowered rates not only for individuals, but for businesses. Now, when Joe Biden talks about $3.5 trillion, he's got to pay for it somehow, which means...
Well, he says it won't cost anything because it'll all be paid for. I don't understand that math. I really don't.
When I see him say that and Jen Psaki look in the camera and say that, you really have a hard time believing whether they even believe it. I mean, they have to know that that's not the case. But if we continue to raise taxes on people and on businesses, there's no incentive to locate here. The corporate tax rate in China is 25%. President Trump lowered the rate from 35% to 21%. Joe Biden wants to take it to 26, 27, 28%. Why would anybody want to manufacture in the U.S. when you could do it cheaper in other countries? So we've got to give the incentive.
Next year's big election. A lot of people are speculating that if these trends continue to go, the Democrats will lose the House and possibly the Senate. Preview for us, if that were to happen, because a lot of people are cynical about the Republicans as much as they are the Democrats. They say, you guys aren't going to do anything different anyway. What changes if Republicans get the House and the Senate? What would be different?
Well, I think the basic thing is we stop a lot of this crazy stuff. I mean, for the last 7 or 8 months, I think back to when Joe Biden was sworn in, and we all watched his inauguration speech. He talked about bipartisanship and unity. We've seen none of that. The $1.9 trillion spending plan, done with all Democrats and no Republicans. The first thing that we can do is stop the spigot. I mean, we're at $28+ trillion in debt. We've got to stop the wild spending. And if you're right, and I think you are, Governor, that the Republicans will get the House back and probably the Senate, we stop that spending. We stop it cold. And we change policy. We force Biden to come to the table rather than dictate.
You know, you're one of my favorite congressmen. I love the fact that you know why you went there, and you sure didn't have to. You had a wonderful career before you went to Congress. We need more folks who are willing to make the sacrifice to do it. Congressman Kustoff, thank you very much for joining us here tonight.
Thank you so much, Governor. Appreciate you.
Now, if you want to keep up with Congressman Kustoff and follow him on social media, do it at Rep. David Kustoff. Also, sign up for his newsletter at kustoff.house.gov.